All right, let's dive into this Avowed thing, huh?
Avowed.
Yeah, Obsidian Entertainment's new RPG. Coming out 2025. Seems like, well, everyone's talking about it. And, you sent in like articles and reviews and forums discussions. You've been doing some research.
Yeah, lots to unpack with a game this anticipated. A lot of buzz, but also some spirited debate swirling around it.
Yeah, spirited debate. That's one way to put it. I like that. And that's what makes this whole deep dive so fascinating. We're going to explore what has people, hyped, and then unpack the controversies that have some folks hitting the unsubscribe button on the hype train.
So first, let's talk about what has gamers glued to their screens refreshing for Avowed news. The combat system is generating a ton of positive chatter.
Yeah, the combat system. What's got everyone so excited about that?
Well, reviewers are praising the flexibility Avowed offers. Like, imagine dual-wielding any combination of weapons and spells. Maybe a sword in one hand, a fireball in the other.
Oh, nice.
And, oh, throw in a pistol for good measure.
Because why not?
Why not? It's a far cry from the more rigid class systems of some of Obsidian's previous games.
So it sounds like they're really leaning into player choice and customization this time around.
Absolutely. And that extends to the world itself. Avowed transports us to the Living Lands, a brand new region within the Pillars of Eternity universe.
Oh, okay.
Think lush forests, detailed environments, and a visual style that's both familiar and refreshingly new.
Yeah, and from what I've seen, the art style definitely has a distinct feel. Some articles I read even compared it to like classic Fable games, with a slightly brighter, more vibrant color palette than we saw in Pillars of Eternity.
Right. It's a departure that has some fans divided,
Yeah.
particularly those who were hoping for a more gritty and realistic aesthetic.
Yeah, it's like that age-old debate,
Yeah.
realism versus stylized visuals. It all just boils down to personal preference, right?
Yeah.
But speaking of choices, Obsidian has a reputation for giving players, agency in their narratives.
hmm And Avowed doesn't disappoint. You step into the role of an envoy, sent to investigate a mysterious plague that's ravaging the Living Lands. Your decisions have a real impact on the story, which is something Obsidian fans have come to expect and appreciate.
Right, that's what I love about their games. You're not just along for the ride, you're shaping the journey. Of course, no game is perfect, and even in the early coverage, there are some whispers about the dialogue, perhaps, being a bit lengthy. We'll see how that plays out when the game is released.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. But there's one aspect where the developers seem to have nailed it. The UI.
Oh, the UI. Yeah, the UI customization has gotten a lot of praise. I read that players can tweak like everything, from the size and placement of HUD elements to the amount of information displayed. Sounds like a win for both immersion and accessibility.
It certainly demonstrates that Obsidian is paying attention to feedback from the community, which is always encouraging.
Okay, so we've covered the highlights, the things that have people, pre-ordering and counting down the days. But as we all know, there's another side to this story. Let's step into what some are calling controversy corner.
Yeah, it seems almost inevitable these days that a high-profile game will attract some level of controversy.
And Avowed is no exception. One of the first things that caught my eye was the debate surrounding character creation, specifically the inclusion of pronoun options. It seems some players see this as an unnecessary intrusion of modern-day social politics into a fantasy world.
While others view it as a positive step toward inclusivity and representation, this difference of opinion highlights the broader tensions surrounding the role of social commentary in video games.
Right. It's a tricky balance, isn't it? On the one hand, games are art, and art often reflects the complexities of the real world. But on the other hand, players are looking for an escape, a chance to step into a different world, and leave their worries behind.
Yeah, and where Avowed falls on that spectrum is still very much up for debate. But the pronoun issue was just the tip of the iceberg. Things really heated up when Matt Hansen, the game's art director, made some, let's say, pointed comments about the game's direction.
Pointed. His remarks about wanting to make Elon Musk mad with the game's woke elements definitely sparked some strong reactions. Some people interpreted his words as a deliberate attempt to provoke rather than simply entertain. It raises the question, what exactly did he mean by woke elements? And are they integral to the game's story and world, or are they simply there to make a statement?
It's hard to say without seeing the game itself, but it certainly fueled speculation about the developer's intentions and whether the game is trying to push a specific agenda.
Right, and that's where things get really messy, because then you have allegations of racial bias in Obsidian's hiring practices, with Hansen himself stating that race was a factor in their decisions. This, of course, raised concerns about potential discrimination and the legality of such practices.
And as you can imagine, this added fuel to the fire. It's a sensitive issue, and people on both sides of the argument feel very strongly about it.
Right, and then Elon Musk got involved, drawing attention to these hiring practices and the potential legal ramifications for Obsidian, given that they're owned by Microsoft.
Yeah, it became a multi-layered controversy, with each new development adding another layer of complexity.
It's hard to know what to make of it all. Some people see it as a calculated marketing ploy, arguing that, any publicity is good publicity, especially in the crowded gaming market.
Yeah.
But others argue that this approach risks alienating a significant portion of the player base who feel targeted or misunderstood by these statements and actions.
And the backlash online has been, well, let's just say it's been passionate. Reddit and X are buzzing with angry gamers, some even vowing to boycott the game entirely. It's a reminder that the gaming community is not a monolith, and there are deep divisions about the role of politics and social commentary in games.
It's clear that Avowed has become a focal point for these larger debates, whether intentionally or not. And to round out our tour of Controversy Corner, we have to talk about the decision to cap the console frame rate at 30 frames per second.
Oh, yeah.
This was done apparently to prioritize visual fidelity, but it's disappointed a lot of players who value smooth performance.
It's a trade-off that developers often face. But in this case, some feel the sacrifice wasn't worth it, especially since many modern games prioritize performance without compromising visuals.
So we've got this game with, stunning visuals, a flexible combat system, and a world where your choices matter. But it's also tangled up in controversy. So far, it seems like a real mixed bag, right? Some amazing features, but also some choices that have left people, scratching their head.
It's a fascinating case study, really,
Yeah.
in how a game can generate both excitement and contention.
At the same time.
Right. It's like watching a high-wire act,
Yeah.
thrilling and nerve-wracking all at once. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Will all this negativity actually impact the game's success? I mean, are people really going to boycott Avowed because of some controversial statements and design decisions?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've seen it happen before.
Right.
Games that have become so embroiled in controversy that it just overshadows their potential. Some players feel very strongly about these issues and choose to express their dissatisfaction by, not supporting the game financially.
But on the flip side, couldn't this actually work in the game's favor?
Well,
I mean, all press is good press, right?
Yeah.
Like we're talking about it right now, aren't we? So maybe this controversy is actually a clever marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Drumming up attention, even if it's negative.
It's a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah. On the one hand, this controversy has undoubtedly put Avowed on the map, right? For gamers who might have otherwise missed it. But on the other hand, it risks alienating a segment of the audience.
Right.
Who may feel that the game doesn't align with their values or expectations.
So it could push some players away while simultaneously pulling others in, like a tug of war, right? With potential players caught in the middle. Ultimately, I guess it comes down to how Obsidian handles the situation, moving forward.
Exactly. Will they address the criticisms head on?
Right.
Attempting to, rebuild trust with those who feel alienated?
Yeah.
Or will they just double down on their vision?
Yeah.
Risking further backlash.
Or maybe they'll just focus on delivering an amazing game and hope the controversies just fade into the background. I don't know. It's a high-stakes gamble either way.
It is. And that brings us to another crucial question. Will the game itself be good enough to overshadow the controversies? After all, if Avowed delivers a truly exceptional gameplay experience, players might be more willing to overlook the noise surrounding its development.
It's like when you find a fantastic restaurant, right, with amazing food.
Right.
Even if the service is a bit shaky, the quality of the food ultimately outweighs the negative aspects of the experience.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. If Avowed can just capture that same sense of quality and depth,
Right.
in its gameplay, world building, and storytelling, players might be more forgiving of its perceived flaws.
So let's go back to those core elements that we discussed earlier. The combat, the exploration, the choices, the immersive world. If Obsidian can just deliver on those promises, Avowed could become a major success, despite the controversies.
And it's worth remembering that Obsidian has a track record, right, of creating engaging and well-crafted RPGs. Games like Fallout, New Vegas, and Pillars of Eternity. while not without their flaws.
Right.
Ultimately, they were celebrated for their rich narratives and compelling characters and intricate gameplay systems.
Yeah, they've definitely earned a reputation for creating immersive and complex RPG experiences.
Right. And that could work in their favor. Players who trust Obsidian's ability to craft engaging worlds and stories might be more willing to give Avowed a chance, even with all the noise surrounding it.
But there's always that risk that the controversies could become so loud that they just drown out the game's positive aspects. It's like trying to listen to a beautiful symphony while someone's constantly banging pots and pans in the background. You know? It just makes it harder to appreciate the music.
That's a very vivid image.
Yeah.
And I think it highlights the potential danger here. The constant negativity and debate surrounding the game could create a barrier for players, making it difficult for them to see past the controversies and just appreciate the game's strengths.
So is Avowed destined for greatness, or will it be forever tainted by these controversies?
It's too early to say for sure, but one thing's certain: how Obsidian navigates these turbulent waters will play a significant role in determining the game's ultimate fate.
Yeah, they're in a tough spot, that's for sure. Do they try to appease everyone, or do they just stay true to their vision, even if it alienates some potential players?
It's a balancing act. There's no easy answer. But what's interesting about this whole situation is that it reflects a much larger conversation happening within the gaming industry.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Avowed has become this focal point for the debate about the role of politics and social commentary and representation in video games. And it's a debate that's been brewing for a while now, and it seems like it's finally reaching a boiling point.
Right. It's a complex and nuanced discussion.
Yeah.
With strong opinions on both sides.
So some players believe that games should be purely for entertainment, a way to escape from the complexities and controversies of the real world.
While others feel that games as a form of art have the power and responsibility to reflect the world around us.
Right.
To engage with social issues and to promote inclusivity and representation.
Right. And where you stand on that spectrum often dictates how you view a game like Avowed, right?
Yeah.
With its complex web of controversies and artistic ambitions.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about one game, it's about the future of the gaming industry as a whole.
Exactly. Avowed has become a kind of test case, a microcosm of this larger debate. The outcome, the way it's received, and the decisions Obsidian makes could have a ripple effect throughout the industry.
It's almost like the gaming world is watching, waiting to see how this unfolds.
And that brings us to another thought-provoking question.
What can we even learn from this whole Avowed saga?
Well, I think Avowed has kind of inadvertently become a mirror, reflecting some of the tensions within the gaming world. It's exposed this growing divide between those who just see games as pure escapism and those who believe they, have the potential for social commentary and representation.
Right. And it's playing out in these very public and often heated debates about, pronouns and hiring practices and what some perceive as a woke agenda being pushed by developers.
Yeah, it's complex, no doubt. Valid arguments on both sides. On one hand, games are art.
Right.
Art has always reflected the complexities of the real world.
Yeah.
Engaging with social and political themes.
Right.
But on the other hand, a lot of people turn to games for entertainment.
Pure entertainment.
Yeah, a break from all the stresses and controversies of, everyday life.
So how do we navigate this increasingly polarized landscape? Like, how do we even find common ground and move forward in a way that respects, different perspectives and expectations?
Well, I think it starts with dialogue. Yeah, open and honest communication.
Yeah.
Developers need to be willing to engage with their audience, explain their creative decisions, and just listen to feedback.
Even when it's critical.
Even when it's critical, yeah.
Right. And players need to be open to hearing those perspectives.
Absolutely.
Even if they don't agree with them. It's about fostering a culture of, respect and understanding. Recognizing that different people will have different views on what they want from games.
Yeah, finding a balance, right?
Yeah.
Creating games that are both entertaining and thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Inclusive without being preachy.
Yeah.
And respectful of different viewpoints without sacrificing that artistic vision.
It's a tightrope walk, that's for sure.
It is.
And Avowed, whether intentionally or not, has kind of forced us to confront these issues head on.
It has. It's become a catalyst for these important conversations.
Yeah.
And whether it succeeds or stumbles, I think the impact of these discussions will be felt, throughout the industry.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Avowed, I'm left with this lingering question.
Okay.
Will we, as gamers, as an industry even, be able to move beyond this binary thinking,
Oh,
this
interesting.
us versus them mentality? Can we learn to appreciate games for their artistic merit, even if they, challenge our preconceived notions or push us out of our comfort zones?
Yeah, that's the challenge, isn't it? And I think the answer lies in our willingness to engage in, nuanced and respectful, open-minded conversations.
Mhm.
Avowed has shown us that the stakes are high, but the potential rewards even greater if we can rise to the occasion. I think the future of gaming will be richer, more diverse, and ultimately more fulfilling
Mm,
for everyone.
I think that's a great place to leave it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Avowed. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.